Okay, so this is my sketchbook between my freshman and sophomore year studying design at Carnegie Mellon, and I wanted to talk a bit about the things that I learned and like the mindset shifts I had during this summer, because I feel like being away from school lets you really like be real with yourself and have some free time to just discover what makes you excited. And yeah, let's get into it. So I didn't actually start with this sketchbook. I started with this one, a Lecterm A5, or no, A4 plus, that's what it is. It's huge. And that's because this is just what I was comfortable with at the end of my freshman year. So to give a little bit of context, I liked these pages, but I was really overloading them. I was filling the page to the brim, and I felt the visceral need to do that on every single page. And even though these helped my thinking, I just feel stressed looking at them because there's so much happening. And a lot of the times I would put too many subjects on the same page, and breaking out of that habit was challenging, but something I wanted to do, and that's why I ended up switching to a smaller one, because it forced me. You can't put that much on a page. Yeah. Okay, so let's get started with the big one. For context, let me start with this. So I do enjoy writing what my favorite mediums are and techniques I want to try and things that I like to draw or want to study more. Just because, we can forget who we are. And it's good to have a little reminder or setting some goals in the beginning of the sketchbook. I enjoy doing that. But I ended up getting a major surgery right when school ended. So I was bedridden and working on my website. And I hadn't been sketching for about the first month of summer. And that's so okay. That is so okay. Like, you can take breaks and it's fine. Yeah, so I was just mapping out some of the interaction design over here. Thinking about how am I going to translate the same design system from web to mobile. What even is my design system? Like, what kind of features do I want? What do I want the cursor to look like? Do I want it to be like a little target? Or do I want to invert the colors when I hover over something? What colors are the subtitles, headers, whatnot. Copying down some inspirations. I feel like this helps me more than Figma at times. I do enjoy using Figma whiteboards to like save inspiration and links together, link code pens, link articles of coding tutorials, whatnot, and resources. But this is where it all happens, I feel like. So I like to save timestamps of things in my sketchbook too, and explaining what will happen when I hover over something, questions I have, like is it too cluttered, do we have harmony, do we have balance, do we have symmetry going on when I look at this page. And I also wanted to establish what kind of guiding themes I have for my website, because I feel like it's a very personal thing. A website, it represents who you are as a person, and I want to represent that on the landing page. Like, let me get back. This is just a simple sketch of a cube, and when you whack it with your mouse, it just bounces around, and it's impossible to get your mouse touching it. So it challenges. And then I really started to get into environments. It was something I'd always wanted to get better at and was fascinated by in my freshman year, and I never made the time to look into it. But I started out looking at Scott Robertson's How to Draw page on environments, and I felt like that was a really great resource for me. This is one of his sketches, and I just wanted to do it myself with some Copic and ballpoint to get started. And then I started experimenting with making really quick thumbnails, like just make a point, radiate out some lines, and make some simple cubes, and then just use your imagination, let it run with it. Playing with imagination was definitely something I practiced a lot this summer and had a lot of fun with. These are some buildings from Akira, some more imagination environments. Page when I started talking to Daniel a bit more, and we sent sketches back and forth, and I feel like having creative people around you to share your work with and feed off of and like inspire each other is so important, because he was just telling me, like, he was doing these speed forms, stuff like this, right? And I wanted to try it as well, and he was saying you know, it's okay to look at your inspirations and try to draw what they're drawing and see if you like that, to discover what do you like. It's not like you're proclaiming it as your own. I'm not proclaiming these as my own, but these are for me to learn what I like. Do I like these forms? Do I enjoy drawing things like this? And what can I learn when I'm drawing these? And I was just, you know, grid systems, thinking about my line confidence. Like, drawing these speed forms definitely made me practice my line confidence. Like, ooh, can I connect a really nice sweeping line? Getting better at line weight, you know. Copying is so okay. You just don't claim it as your own, and you use it to learn about yourself more. Ooh, and then I really started to get into skulls. I was like, I love skulls. I think studying them is awesome. I think they're beautiful. And one of my professors drew a ton of skulls, and he was like, if you can draw a skull, you can draw anything. Would I agree with that? Somewhat, but also I haven't really mastered the skull yet, so I can't really say for sure. And this is when I got my knife. I got him because I wanted to have a cool knife to sharpen my colored pencils with, because I'm sick of the box cutter. It gives me freshman year trauma, and we need something different. We need change. Studying the skull some more, actually, like learning about what's the most important relationships that define what is a skull, and like what do I need to remember when I'm drawing one in perspective. I think that's like pretty important for any complex form. Yeah, that's the end of the lectern. And then, okay, so now I want to go on to the next sketchbook I started. It was the B5 Muji sketchbook, because the other one was just too big, too much pressure. And anyways, I feel like a small form factor sketchbook helps me draw more. Like, if for the same reason that a small journal helps me write more. Like, I have all these. This is only half the stack of journals. It's like a commonplace book where I just, more skulls, where I just write. And it's easier because the page is physically smaller. And so it feels like, it's just a quick sketch. It's just a quick thing. If it's not something I'm happy with, then it's fine. You just like go on to the next page, right? So yeah, more environments and skulls here. that eased the pressure a lot for me. And in the beginning, and really throughout all of summer, I was just experimenting, like, what mediums do I like? What combos do I really love? And I noticed Copic was something I just kept coming back to. I was pretty interested in drawing people, and during this time as well. This was a fun experimentation, playing with mediums. Charcoal, I took a charcoal stick, wiped it like that, and then this Pentel aqua brush, I took it and I like swiped it. Sometimes I just use my hands to draw too, which I really like to do. And I enjoy writing notes at the top. Like here, I was listening to a podcast by the Graffiti Machine and practicing grids, helping that map out where key features are. And again, like, just being comfortable drawing whatever the hell I want, and that not everything needs to be perfect and presentable, and it's fine to fail. Like, yikes, yeah. Sometimes I like to write little reminders for myself, like, don't overdo the drawing, pre-visualize, do it again, do it again. My professor told me at the end of last semester that I would draw a thing and then I just wouldn't draw it again. So yeah, it's like it doesn't really get better if you don't try it one more time. And I was listening to a Scott Robertson video here, and he was talking about the golden section, and I realized I never really tried to apply that to my drawings, but he uses it in all of his spaceships. So I drew one of his spaceships here and noted how he uses the golden section, and then tried from imagination to apply that myself down here. And I feel like listening to someone or what someone's doing and then applying it to your own creation or a different context, it does help me a lot. Also in the process of just like figuring out what I like. Lots of like sci-fi, mech, spaceships I keep coming back to. Ooh, and this is a design by Darren Quach, and I was just here building my visual library more and feeling okay with drawings that my heroes have made and my inspirations, because I'm just learning about the details that they do and the compositions that they create. And I just really love the circular nature of this. And a strategy that Darren Quach uses that I find so great is he uses a Copic and he'll just like make a little blob of a form that maybe he wants to explore, and then he'll keep iterating in these simple blobs. And once he sees some potential in one or a composition that looks strong, then he'll take that, make it a bigger version, and start fleshing it out into more of an illustration. And one thing I learned from that was like, it's very hard to have a really good drawing but also a good design on the first try, so it's better to just chill out and practice the design first and make it messy, and then you can just, once you find a design that has potential, then take your time with it and make a better illustration of it, and then do all your views and everything. This one is another Darren Quach mech, and I loved the little ellipse details here, and I drew them out really like that. And then this one's mine. Ooh, and this was I believe it's called Zhengzhazhe. I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I'm sorry. But yeah, this was such an awesome place that I saw a friend on Instagram go to, and I thought it was so sick. Like, these mountains, I would love to visit. I mean, I'm just obsessed with rocks and mountains and vegetation anyways, so, you know, it's fitting. And I drew them in this scene and trying to work out how do I show texture with ink and convey rocks in a more simple way, because they're such complex things if you look at them too deeply. And, you know, gotta throw a skull in there. And then Suena was like, it's really not that deep, which is so true. Everything is not that deep. And then this was not my favorite sketch, but a really interesting one. I saw a dead spider on my deck, and I was like, this is a really cool form. So I started out drawing the spider, and then I wanted to practice my imagination, play with it, you know? And I turned it into some kind of, I keep using the word mech, but mechanical thing, and threw it into a scene with these ravines again, and added in a little tree, a bush. So that's a really fun thing to practice, just taking things from your world and then manipulating them with your imagination and then drawing it out. Thinking about mind mapping, like can it be 3D? Practicing line economy. Some more people. This was a fun experiment. I took charcoal powder, shredded it up, and took a sponge. What is this called? You can see it. There's a sponge on this end, and then use it as a vignette. This is when I realized I actually don't know what the torso looks like underneath of this Chainsaw Man. This was something Suena taught me, and like the idea that you should draw something as soon as you get excited about it, because this is time sensitive. It's already in your brain. You gotta get it out on the paper as soon as you can, or else you'll forget about it, or you won't be as excited about it later. And this was a speaker I found in this garage I'm in right now, and it was just ripped apart. It was the inside, it was the parts, all the inner workings, and so I drew that out. I kind of liked how the Copic looked on its own, so I just left it because you can see all the construction. And this is a Copic version, and I wanted to do it again. So this guy, and I called him my mineral giant because when I had shown the sketch earlier, let's see, this sketch, the person I showed it to saw this form as a person, like this was a head, body, leg. And I thought that was really interesting, and their imagination is wild. So I decided to create a narrative out of it. Yeah. So this is that head you saw there. And he's got vegetation all over him, and I wanted to create a story, right? So I added the city in the background, and he's kind of been cast away from civilization because anything he touches, it just explodes because he's too big and he's a giant. It actually, I was thinking about, I don't know if you know that movie, The Iron Giant. I think Disney made it, no, Pixar. It's a very, I think it was made in 2005 or something. Rocks outside my house. Something on the highway. This is a tree and some solar panels. It's kind of interesting. I don't really know what was happening there. And these are lecture sketches from when I started taking 15-112 over the summer. And I did not want to listen. Like, it was a rough time. It's a intro computer science course. That was pretty difficult for me. And ouch, yikes. Playing around with pencil, like how can I create depth by shading with pencil, because I'm usually not doing that. Like this, make form out of it. Some more lecture sketches. Being okay with leaving drawings unfinished was something that I started doing. Like this one is unfinished, this one's more rendered. But I was playing around with weight, balance, and proportion here. Because I ended up as I was walking to recitation, I would see these spaceships and satellites in the physics hallways, and that just inspired me. Oh, this is a good quote. Don't try to do a beautiful drawing when searching for a beautiful design. Get loose and explore fast and make an illustration. Scott Robertson. This was a fun exercise. I can't remember where I got this from, but just drawing a point out and ellipses, and then here making some ellipses wider, and then I turned it into a form. I want to say a remote, but then this could also be a helipad. And this was my fridge in Forbes Bueller. Just thinking about how I can manipulate the form and make something interesting. And then I ended up turning that into a spaceship, the fridge from before. Like this is the lower door of the fridge. This is the upper door of the fridge. And then I manipulated that because I felt like the weight was a bit imbalanced here. This is a really fun exercise. I was looking at the clouds, and I wasn't even thinking about it, but I had to draw it immediately because you know the clouds are moving. But this was a cloud, and I thought the form was really awesome. And then I kind of refined it a little bit, turned it into a spaceship, added some details and whatnot. Ooh. I also love putting ink on the page and then blowing it, like blowing air on it to make those bleeds. This was a skull that the person across from my dorm gave to me. Really awesome. Even moves the jaw. So round over here. This was a lecture sketch, but also a trash can I saw in Pittsburgh, or it was a recycling bin, and then I turned the recycling bin into two different models of drones. I think it's a really fun thing to try, taking things from life and just seeing how you can manipulate it. How many iterations can you make? Because it's really endless. Once you realize it's like endless, then You can't stop. Well, this was inspired by John Harris. I like his books. This was a bit of the How to Render book. Scott Robertson. The Fair Coffee. Really like drawing coffee machines. Just some planning for computer science midterm project. Did not end up doing this. This was a talk by Rafi Minasian, if I'm saying his name right, that Daniel sent me. Some good quotes from him. And just some things from imagination. Some kind of like plant pod. Some golden ratio stuff. That I feel like this page was what inspired my term project for my CS course. Like this was the first start of it. I just didn't know yet. And in the Gates building, they have so much coffee machines, and I just drew it immediately before it left my brain. I'm trying to incorporate the golden ratio with it. Alright, so this is my current sketchbook after that one. I do enjoy putting my reward if found in the front. You don't have to tell them what your reward is, because you can just give them a high five when they come to you. So for this sketchbook, I did have a little bit of goals. Like I do have some goals for this one. Specifically, I wrote down some guidelines and exercises in the front. I want to continue building my visual library by drawing details from books I like Dieter Rams. I have a book by him with some things I want to draw from there. John Harris, I love his paintings, his space style things. I'm trying to stick to only a few mediums, so this whole book is going to be dedicated towards the color blue. I'm going to do everything in blue. And with only a few mediums like Copic, ballpoint, ink, things like that. And there's a couple exercises I want to try. So the beginning is really just 15-112. It's just my term project. I'm just drafting out how I want the user interface to look like right here, what the interactions are going to be like, what kind of features am I going to include, and yeah. As we go through, it becomes less so thinking about what features are intuitive and what features are useful and how are they going to go down, how are people going to use them, and it turns more into how do I do math and all the algorithms that go into making the features. So things like object-oriented programming. I wrote a bit about how I want my classes to look. I called each rectangle phi. And I realized as I was doing this, sketching comes in serious handy when I'm drafting out or planning how I want to create the algorithms for my app, and also explaining to other people what I want to visually happen on the screen and also under the hood. Because that's so important too. Like if you want to ask for help, how do you explain it? And I feel like I didn't see people really drawing what they were trying to do, and it's really hard to understand what they're talking about if they don't do so. So that it was just helpful for me too. Go, speed, go. That's my professor. Suanna's drawing. She's all. Oh, this was a fun one. An exercise I love to do. This is my Chemex drip coffee brewer, and I just like to try to make different iterations of the same thing and just change the proportions of each element. Just play around with it, have fun. And I learned that from John Park. He used to do that in college, and he did it with a broccoli. He took a broccoli and turned it in, like slightly modified the features of the broccoli to turn it into something new, and I found that so cool. This was a romaine lettuce that Suanna drew, and she drew this like this is how she represented the romaine lettuce. It was very block-like, and so I took this block-like form and I was like, this looks like a building. And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I drew it from a top-down view, as if you were just like right down here, and you were just like looking up from down. Just drafting out or redrafting the UI, some UI elements, brainstorming some UI elements for my term project for 112, because I wanted to redo it. It looked pretty ugly when I submitted. This is an Arduino. Where is it? There you go. Him. And I really found the brain part. I forgot what it's actually called, but when I learned about it, they called it the brain. And I thought that the form was really interesting, so I just drew it out. Thinking about how forms are constructed and everything aligns. Like, I took my Chemex and measured the base and figured out right here like how many bases fit into this, and then where all of the connections are made, and how every single diagonal, if you connect it to a new place, like this edge here is connected to the center point, it creates a new angle of curve for the neck. But this one here connects directly towards the edge, which connects down to the base, and it creates a different angle here. So these look very different. I'm just trying to create a gesture drawing recreation from memory, or not memory, but by using the relationships that were established from looking at it and observing. And this is a little knife that I got yesterday, and I thought it was pretty cool. I might sharpen some colored pencils with it. It is real, and it's really tiny. Yeah. That's it for now.